My husband stared at our newborn and said, "We need a DNA test. He's too handsome to be mine." The room went silent. But when the results came back, the doctor's smile disappeared. He looked at me, then at my husband, and said, "Call security, now." I'd been in labor for 14 hours when Daniel looked at our son and destroyed everything. "We need a DNA test." The delivery room went still. Dr. Hughes froze mid-note on my chart. Nurse Patricia's hand stopped halfway to the IV stand. My mother-in-law, Linda, gasped from the corner chair where she'd been crying happy tears 30 seconds earlier. I thought I'd misheard. Had to have misheard. "What?" My voice came out hoarse, wrecked from hours of screaming through contractions. Daniel stood beside the hospital bed, arms crossed, staring at our baby boy with an expression I'd never seen before. Cold, calculating. The overhead fluorescence cast shadows under his eyes that made him look like a stranger. "I want a DNA test. Right now." "Daniel, you can't be. He's too handsome to be mine." He said it with a small, cruel smile, like he was making a joke, but his eyes weren't joking. His eyes were accusing me of something I couldn't even process while my body was still bleeding, still recovering from pushing an 8-pound human out of it. Dr. Hughes cleared his throat. "Mr. Carter, this is highly unusual. Perhaps we should discuss this privately." "I don't care about unusual." Daniel's voice got louder. "I care about the truth. My son doesn't look anything like me. Look at him. Perfect skin, strong features. I was an ugly baby." He turned to me, that smile still playing at his lips. "So either he got incredibly lucky with genetics, or Emily has something to tell us." The room felt like it was underwater. Sounds became muffled. My vision tunneled. After 14 hours of labor, after 9 months of pregnancy where I'd thrown up every morning for 16 weeks straight, after 3 years of marriage where I'd put him through graduate school, worked 2 jobs to cover our rent, rubbed his back when he cried about his thesis, and never once looked at another man. He was accusing me of cheating, in front of his mother, in front of my medical team, while I was still connected to an IV and a catheter. Something cold settled in my chest. Not panic, not fear, something harder than that. Clarity. "Fine," I said. My voice came out flat, emotionless. "Do the test." Linda shot to her feet. "Daniel Harrison Carter, what is wrong with you? This is your son. Look at him. He has your—" "Mother, stay out of this." Daniel's jaw clenched. "I have a right to know." Nurse Patricia looked at Dr. Hughes. The doctor's face had gone carefully neutral in that way medical professionals do when they're witnessing something deeply uncomfortable but have to maintain composure. "If you both consent," Dr. Hughes said slowly, "we can perform a paternity test. But Mr. Carter, I want you to understand that accusing your wife of infidelity during her most vulnerable, just do it." Dr. Hughes nodded once, sharp, disapproving. "Nurse Patricia, prepare a buccal swab kit, 2 of them." I held our baby closer while Patricia left and returned with the supplies. My son, I'd been calling him Jackson in my head for months, but we hadn't officially named him yet, slept peacefully through everything, oblivious to the fact that his father had just shattered our family in his first hour of life. Patricia swabbed Jackson's cheek gently, then Daniel's. Her movements were efficient, professional, but I saw the tightness around her eyes, the slight press of her lips. She was angry on my behalf. "We have a lab relationship for expedited processing," Dr. Hughes said. "Given the circumstances, I'll mark this as priority. We should have preliminary results in 2 to 3 hours." 2 to 3 hours? Daniel scoffed. "That's the best you can do? That's remarkably fast for DNA analysis, Mr. Carter." Dr. Hughes's tone could have frozen water. "Most facilities take several days." Daniel sat down in the chair by the window, pulled out his phone, started scrolling like he hadn't just accused me of betraying him in the worst possible moment. Linda approached my bed. Her hands were shaking. "Emily, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's gotten into him. He's probably just scared. New father anxiety. Men say stupid things when they're—" "Linda," I looked at her, really looked at her. "Did you know?" "Know what?" "About Daniel's family." Something flickered across her face. Confusion, then fear. "I don't understand what you're—" "His real family. The one he doesn't talk about." Linda's face went white. Daniel's head snapped up from his phone. "Emily, what the hell are you talking about?" I didn't answer. Just held Jackson and waited. The next 2 hours were the longest of my life. Linda sat in the corner, silent and pale. Daniel paced, checked his phone, stared at Jackson with an expression I couldn't read. Dr. Hughes came and went, checking my vitals, ensuring I was healing properly, saying nothing about the elephant in the room. Nurse Patricia brought me ice chips, helped me to the bathroom, whispered, "You're doing great, honey," in a way that made me think she meant more than my physical recovery. I'd been preparing for this moment for 12 weeks. 3 months ago, I'd been looking for our insurance paperwork. Daniel kept all our important documents in a fireproof lockbox in his home office. He'd given me the combination years ago. "In case something happens to me," he'd said. I'd opened it expecting to find birth certificates, social security cards, our marriage license. Instead, I found a birth certificate that said Daniel Matthew Harrison, not Daniel Matthew Carter. The date of birth matched. The hospital was in Montana, which lined up with where he'd told me he was born. But the name was wrong. The parents' names were wrong. Everything was wrong. I'd sat on his office floor for 20 minutes, staring at that document, feeling my reality crack apart. Then, I'd found the letter underneath it. "Daniel, if you're reading reading this, I'm probably dead or in prison. Don't try to find me. Don't use the Harrison name. I did things. Bad things. They'll be looking for anyone connected to me. Change your name. Disappear. Start over. It's the only way you'll be safe. Emmy Chacker, Harrison. The handwriting was shaky, desperate. The paper was dated 15 years ago, when Daniel would have been 19. I'd hired a private investigator the next day. His name was Marcus Webb, former LAPD detective, now running a small firm in downtown Portland. Cost me $20,500 up front, but he'd been thorough. 2 weeks later, Marcus had sent me a 40-page report. Michael Harrison, Daniel's father, was wanted for questioning in connection with 3 separate violent crimes across Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. Nothing proven, never formally charged, but enough smoke that law enforcement across multiple jurisdictions had been trying to locate him for over a decade. He disappeared in 2010, right around the time Daniel legally changed his name and moved to Oregon for college. Daniel's mother, Catherine Harrison, had died in a car accident when Daniel was 16. After that, Daniel had lived with his father for 3 years until Michael vanished. The private investigator had found records of Daniel's name change petition from 2011, legal, above board. But he'd lied on the application about his reasons, claiming he wanted to distance himself from his mother's death, not mentioning his father at all. Everything I thought I knew about my husband was a lie. He'd told me his parents died when he was young, car accident, no siblings, no extended family. He'd been alone, he said, which was why he cherished the family we were building together. None of it was true. His mother had died, yes, but his father was alive, somewhere, hiding from crimes Daniel had never mentioned, and Daniel had buried it all, built an entirely new identity, married me, let me believe his made-up stories about a childhood that never existed. I'd spent the next 10 weeks wrestling with what to do. Leave him? Confront him? Pretend I didn't know? Then I'd realized something. The DNA test database. The national criminal database that law enforcement used. If Michael Harrison's DNA was in the system from old crime scene evidence, and Daniel submitted his DNA for any reason, it would flag. I'd contacted Detective Sarah Walsh at the Portland Police Department, explained the situation, showed her the documents. She'd been skeptical at first. Ma'am, having a parent with a criminal history isn't itself a crime. But when I'd showed her the sealed name change petition and Michael Harrison's open case files, something shifted. If we could get your husband's DNA legally, she'd said carefully, we could potentially link it to evidence from the Harrison investigations. But we can't compel him without cause. What if he volunteered it? I'd asked. She'd looked at me for a long moment. That would be different. I'd spent 2 weeks thinking about how to make that happen. Then last week, Daniel had made an offhand comment about how beautiful I'd stayed during pregnancy. Kid's going to be gorgeous, he'd said. Probably better looking than me. I was an ugly baby, and I'd had an idea. A terrible, calculated, perfect idea. I'd started planting seeds, mentioning celebrity babies, commenting on how genetics were unpredictable, watching Daniel's insecurity grow. I'd known my husband long enough to understand his weak points. Daniel was handsome now, but he'd been bullied as a kid for his appearance. He'd told me that story the second time we'd dated, trying to be vulnerable. It was one of the few true things he'd ever shared with me, so I'd carefully, subtly over the course of a week, fed that old insecurity. I hope the baby gets my nose, I'd said casually. Did you see that article about babies not resembling their parents? I'd mentioned while scrolling my phone. Your mom keeps saying she hopes he looks like you. Do you think he will? Small comments. Innocent. But I'd watched them land. Watched Daniel start to question, start to wonder. I'd gambled that his insecurity would outweigh his rationality. And in the delivery room, after 14 exhausting hours, when he'd first seen Jackson's perfect little face, he'd done exactly what I'd hoped he'd do. He'd demanded a DNA test. At 9:47 p.m., Dr. Hughes walked back into the delivery room. His face was wrong, not relieved, not ready to deliver good news and make this awkward situation go away. He looked pale, shaken. He met my eyes first, held my gaze for just a moment too long. Then he turned to Daniel. Mr. Carter, it's about time. Daniel stood up. So, am I the father or not? Dr. Hughes's hand moved to the red emergency call button on the wall. My heart started pounding, not from fear, from anticipation, because I knew what was coming. Mr. Carter, Dr. Hughes said carefully, before I discuss the results, I need you to remain calm. What? Why? Daniel's voice pitched higher. Just tell me if the baby's mine. Dr. Hughes pressed the button. An alarm sounded somewhere down the hall, not loud, just a quiet alert. What the hell are you doing? Daniel demanded. The DNA test results flagged your sample in the National Criminal Database, Dr. Hughes said. His voice was steady now, clinical. I'm legally obligated to report this to law enforcement. The room stopped breathing. Daniel went white, actually white, like every drop of blood drained from his face. That's impossible. His voice shook. There's a mistake. I've never been arrested. The flag is for familial DNA connection to evidence in multiple open investigations. Dr. Hughes glanced at me again. Your genetic profile indicates a close paternal relationship to samples collected from crime scenes in Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho between 2008 and 2010. Linda stood up slowly. What is he talking about, Daniel? I don't know. Daniel's voice cracked. This is insane. There's been a mix-up. I'm not not connected to any crimes. Two security officers appeared in the doorway. Behind them, I saw the dark blue uniform of a Portland police officer. Detective Sarah Walsh walked into the room. She looked exactly like she had 2 weeks ago when we'd met. Mid-40s, gray-streaked blonde hair pulled back, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Daniel Carter? She asked. Daniel spun toward her. Yes, there's been a mistake with, also known as Daniel Harrison. His mouth opened, closed. No sound came out. I'm Detective Walsh, Portland Police Department. We need to ask you some questions about your father, Michael Harrison, and your knowledge of his whereabouts. I don't know where he is. Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. I haven't seen him in 15 years. But you knew he was wanted for questioning in connection with multiple violent crimes when you legally changed your name in 2011? Yes, but I didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted to start over. You withheld information about a fugitive's identity during official investigations. You failed to report knowledge of his location when he was last known to be in contact with you. You provided false information on legal documents about your reasons for the name change. Detective Walsh's voice was matter-of-fact, not cruel, just factual. Those are crimes, Mr. Harrison. Everyone please stop calling me that. Daniel's voice rose to a shout. My name is Daniel Carter. I legally changed it. I didn't do anything wrong. I was 19. I was scared. Scared of what? Linda's voice came from the corner. She sounded broken. Daniel, what is she talking about? Who's Michael Harrison? Daniel turned to his mother. Mom, I can explain. Linda isn't your biological mother, I said quietly. Everyone looked at me. I adjusted Jackson in my arms. He'd started fussing, picking up on the tension in the room. I bounced him gently, kept my voice calm. Linda married Daniel's father when Daniel was 18, I continued. They were together for less than a year before Michael disappeared. Daniel told her his father had abandoned them, that they should start over with a new name, so she changed her name too, became Linda Carter. She had no idea about Michael's past, about the investigations. She thought she was helping her stepson escape an abusive father. Linda sank back into her chair. Oh my God, you knew. Daniel stared at me. How long have you known? 12 weeks. The number landed like a bomb. 12 weeks? His voice cracked. You've known for 3 months, and you didn't say anything? You built our entire marriage on lies, Daniel. I looked at him, really looked at him. 3 years. 3 years of me believing your stories about your tragic past, about being alone in the world, about how much family meant to you. All of it was fake. I was protecting you. He took a step toward me. The security officers moved forward, hands on their belts. He stopped. Emily, please. I was protecting you from my father, from his past. I didn't want you to be connected to any of that. You were protecting yourself. My voice was steady, cold. You were afraid someone would find out, that the truth would come out, that you'd lose the life you'd built by pretending to be someone else. Detective Walsh stepped forward. Mrs. Carter, when did you contact our department? 2 weeks ago, after I hired a private investigator and learned about the open investigations connected to Michael Harrison. I provided documentation of Daniel's name change and his connection to the case. Daniel's jaw literally dropped. You planned this? You planned to humiliate me by demanding a paternity test in front of everyone. I just made sure the test would serve a purpose beyond feeding your insecurities. How did you even? He stopped, looked at me with dawning horror. The things you said, about genetics, about the baby's appearance. You were manipulating me. You wanted me to ask for the test. I wanted the truth to come out, about who you really are, about the lies you've been telling. And yes, I knew that if you submitted your DNA, it would flag in the system. Detective Walsh told me the lab would automatically run it through the database. That's standard procedure for all DNA tests processed through affiliated facilities, Detective Walsh confirmed. We have partnerships with medical labs across the state. Daniel looked around the room wildly, at his mother, who was crying, at the security officers who stood blocking the door, at Dr. Hughes, who watched with professional detachment, at me, holding our son. I didn't do anything wrong, he said desperately. I just changed my name, that's all. I was a kid. I was scared. My father was violent. He hurt people. I couldn't be associated with that. Can't you understand? I understand that you lied to me. I kept my voice level. I understand that when I asked you about your family, you invented dead parents and tragic stories. I understand that you let me believe a fiction for 3 years, and I understand that after I gave birth to your son, my voice hardened. After 14 hours of labor, after I did everything right, after I was loyal and faithful and true, you accused me of cheating in front of everyone. You wanted to humiliate me. I didn't mean, yes, you did. You wanted to punish me for something, maybe for getting close to you, maybe for having the baby that made you feel trapped, maybe because you were afraid I'd find out the truth and you wanted to push me away first. I don't know. I don't care anymore. Detective Walsh pulled out a notepad. Mr. Harrison, we need you to come to the station to answer questions about your father's last known location and any contact you've had with him since 2010. I told you, I haven't seen him. Daniel's voice was rising again. Panic edged every word. He disappeared. He told me to change my name and never look back. That's exactly what I did. You also told your stepmother that he'd abandoned you. But the letter you kept suggests he was fleeing active investigations. That distinction matters in terms of obstruction charges. I was 19. Tears started started streaming down Daniel's face. I was a kid. I didn't know what to do. He told me people were after him, that they'd come after me too if I didn't disappear. So I did. I became someone else. I built a new life. I tried to be good. I tried to— His voice broke. I felt nothing. 3 months ago, I might have felt sorry for him, might have understood the scared 19-year-old who'd changed his name to escape his father's shadow. But that was before I'd learned every story he'd told me was a lie, before he'd accused me of infidelity while I was still bleeding from childbirth. Is the baby mine? Daniel asked suddenly, quietly. At least tell me that. Dr. Hughes looked at his tablet. The paternity test confirms a 99.9% probability that you are the biological father. Daniel's shoulders sagged. Thank God. You're welcome, I said dryly, for not cheating on you while I was pregnant with your child that I just spent 14 hours bringing into the world. He looked at me. Emily, please. I know I screwed up. I know I should have told you about my past, but I love you. I love our son. We can work through this. We can— No, the word hung in the air. I'm divorcing you. Linda made a small sound in the corner. You can't, Daniel said desperately. We just had a baby. We're a family. You can't just— I can. I will. And I'm going to petition the court to seal all records related to Jackson's father's identity until he's 18. You can't erase me. I can protect my son from being associated with a father who built his entire life on lies and a grandfather who's wanted for questioning and violent crimes. The court will side with me, especially given the circumstances of today. What circumstances? That you publicly accused me of infidelity immediately after I gave birth. That you demanded a DNA test in front of medical staff and your mother. That your accusations were recorded in the hospital's documentation. I looked at Dr. Hughes. Right, doctor? He nodded slowly. Everything that happens in this room is documented in the medical record, including conversations. You set me up, Daniel whispered. This whole thing. You set me up. You set yourself up when you decided to humiliate me. I just made sure there would be witnesses. Detective Walsh cleared her throat. Mr. Harrison, we really do need you to come with us now. Am I being arrested? Not at this time, but we need your statement on record, and we need to verify your claims about not having contact with your father. Depending on what we find, charges may be filed for obstruction of justice. What does that mean? Linda asked, her voice small. Will he go to jail? That depends on what he knew and when he knew it, Detective Walsh said. If he genuinely hasn't had contact with Michael Harrison since 2010 and has no knowledge of his current whereabouts, he'll likely face minimal consequences for the name change issue. But if he's been in contact and failed to report it, or if he's been actively helping his father evade law enforcement, that's a different story. Daniel looked at me one last time. I never contacted him. I swear, I did exactly what he told me to do. I disappeared. I became someone else. I never looked back. Except you kept his letter, I said, in a lockbox with your birth certificate, the one thing that proved who you really were, because it was all I had left of the person I used to be. His voice cracked, because sometimes I needed to remember that I wasn't always a liar, that I started out as someone real. For just a moment I felt something, a flutter of the love I used to have for him. Then I remembered him standing over me, arms crossed, saying, "He's too handsome to be mine," with that cruel little smile. The flutter died. "Take him," I said to Detective Walsh. She nodded to the security officers. They moved to either side of Daniel. "Mrs. Carter," Detective Walsh said, "we'll need a formal statement from you as well, but that can wait until you've recovered from delivery. I'll have an officer contact you in a few days." "Thank you, Detective." They led Daniel toward the door. He looked back once, face streaked with tears, mouth opening like he wanted to say something. Then they were gone. The room fell silent. Linda sat in her chair, staring at nothing. Nurse Patricia finished updating my chart with shaking hands. Dr. Hughes approached my bed carefully. "Mrs. Carter," he said gently, "I need to ask, are you safe? Do you feel threatened by your husband?" "No. Daniel isn't violent, just a liar." "Will you be returning to your home with him?" "He won't be there. I had the locks changed this morning while I was in labor. My brother has been moving Daniel's things to a storage unit all day. His key doesn't work anymore." Dr. Hughes blinked. "You've been planning this all day?" "I've been planning this for 12 weeks. Nurse Patricia let out a sharp laugh, then covered her mouth. "Sorry, that's not funny. It's just damn, girl." I smiled, tired, triumphant. "I'm a planner." Linda finally spoke. Her voice was hollow. "Emily, I didn't know about any of it. Michael told me his wife died, that Daniel needed a mother figure, that they needed to start fresh. I loved them both. I thought I was doing the right thing." "I know." I looked at her. "That's why I made sure you heard everything in this room. So you'd know I'm not keeping you from your grandson. Daniel lied to both of us, but you're innocent, and Jackson is going to need his grandmother." She started crying harder. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You're going to be my free childcare." She laughed through her tears. "Deal." Dr. Hughes checked Jackson's vitals one more time. "He's perfect. Strong heartbeat. Good color. You both did great today." "Even with the drama?" I asked. "Especially with the drama. You stayed calm, kept your baby safe, made sure everyone knew exactly what was happening and why. That took remarkable strength. I just wanted the truth to come out." "Well, it certainly did that." He smiled. "Get some rest, Mrs. Carter. You've had quite a day." After he left, it was just me, Jackson, Linda, and Nurse Patricia. "For what it's worth," Patricia said quietly, "I've been a delivery nurse for 22 years. I've seen a lot of terrible things things said in delivery rooms. What your husband did today was one of the cruelest. You didn't deserve that. No, I agreed. I didn't. And what you did in response, she paused. Some people might say it was manipulative, cold, calculating. They'd be right. Good, she grinned. He had it coming. After she left, Linda moved to the chair beside my bed, looked at Jackson sleeping peacefully in my arms. Can I hold him? She asked. I passed him over carefully, watched her cradle her grandson, her stepson's biological child, connected to a legacy of lies and crime and fear. What are you going to tell him? Linda asked softly. When he asks about his father, the truth. I looked at Jackson's peaceful face. That his father made mistakes, that people can be good and broken at the same time, that sometimes loving someone means protecting them from the damage of lies. Will you let Daniel see him? I considered that. If he gets his life together, if he's honest with me from now on, if he earns it, but he'll never live with us, never be part of our daily life. Jackson deserves better than growing up in a house built on deception. Linda nodded. That's fair. Is it? I asked. Sometimes I wonder if I'm being too harsh, if I should have confronted him privately, given him a chance to explain. He had 3 years to explain. Linda's voice was firm. He chose lies every single day, and then he humiliated you in your most vulnerable moment. You don't owe him anything, except his son. His son deserves a father who's honest. If Daniel can become that person, you'll let him in. That's more than fair. That's gracious. We sat in silence for a while. Linda held Jackson. I closed my eyes and let the exhaustion finally catch up to me. Emily? Linda's voice was hesitant. What you said about the planning, the private investigator, the detective, the timing of everything. Did you really orchestrate all of this? I opened my eyes. Yes. Why? Why not just leave him quietly? Why make it so public? Because quiet would have let him control the narrative. He would have told everyone I left him right after giving birth, made me look unstable, blamed hormones, painted himself as the victim. This way, everyone knows the truth. His mother knows. The hospital staff knows. The police know. There's no version of this story where Daniel is the good guy. Linda absorbed that. You're ruthless. I'm a mother. I looked at Jackson. And I won't let my son grow up in a world where his father's lies define us. Daniel wanted a DNA test to prove I was unfaithful. Instead, he proved that when you build your life on deception and then publicly humiliate your wife after 14 hours of labor, she might have already spent 12 weeks making sure the truth comes out in the most devastating, undeniable, permanent way possible. Linda was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'm proud to be his grandmother. Good, I smiled, because you're going to be doing a lot of babysitting. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. Daniel pled guilty to obstruction of justice for failing to report information about his father's location when he'd been questioned by investigators years ago. He'd actually had an email from Michael Harrison in 2013, 3 years after his father disappeared, that he'd never disclosed. He got probation, community service, and a permanent record. His father was eventually found living in rural Alaska under a false name. The evidence linked to his DNA helped close 2 cases and opened investigations into 3 more. Daniel lost his job, his friends, his reputation. He started therapy, sent me letters apologizing, asking to see Jackson. I made him wait 6 months. Then I let him have supervised visits once a month. Linda supervised. He cried the first time he held Jackson after everything fell apart. Told our son he was sorry. Promised to be better. I don't know if he will be, but I'm giving him the chance I never got. The chance to know the truth from the beginning. Jackson is 4 months old now. He's healthy, happy, perfect. People ask me if I regret how I handled everything, if I wish I'd done it differently. I tell them no, because when someone shows you who they really are, especially in your most vulnerable moment, you have 2 choices. You can let them control the narrative, or you can make sure everyone knows the truth. I chose truth, and every time I look at my son sleeping peacefully in his crib, knowing he'll grow up in a home built on honesty instead of lies, I know I chose right. Daniel wanted a DNA test to prove I was a cheater. Instead, he proved that DNA tests reveal more than paternity. They reveal everything.